I want to talk about the course now. So the
Yeah.
course is not necessarily about ancestors, but it's about tarot in general. Can you tell us a little bit how the course came about, what inspired you?
I don't necessarily consider myself an authority in tarot, but I think that I do belong to a group of like minds that are appear like every few generations was very intrigued by tarot's iconography and trying to understand basically where those images come from and why do they mean to us today. And the course is really kind of trying to understand the major arcana. So we're only looking at the 22 figurative images of the tarot, the one that are kind of the crown jewel of the tarot, and try to understand why for each card their like basically how their meaning evolved through time by looking at images from the tarot, but also images from the moment tarot was invented that comes from the Catholic tradition or like emblem books or like things that people used to do or wear, like things like that, and try to understand the the symbolic power of those images as a totality through time. For example, the hangman from the Renaissance is not the hangman from the Rider-Waite Smith. The images are so close, so similar looking, but the way it was understood is completely different from like one century to the next. And I think by understanding the continuation of how those card, iconographically speaking, they didn't evolve so much, but like the way we came to understand them evolved a great deal. And it's a great course if you're interested in the history of symbolism. And if you really try to want to understand the card are not just like a one-way street. You have to understand them as clusters of symbols. And like there is something very arborescent about them. You have like a first circle of understanding, and then like it branches out, and then you can expand that. And then once you understand that visual mechanics, that semantic mechanics, you can understand how to read the cards. It's not about like this plus this equal this. Tarot is not a memory palace. You don't get to understand the language of the card by memorizing the meaning. Like you get to understand the language of the card if you just like understand the symbolic subtlety that they have and the fact that symbolic subtlety is always being reinvented by others through time, but also by you through your own culture, through your own identity, and through the way you are going to connect with the card.
How does this course expand from work that you've already done?
I'm constantly doing research. So like just the way I perceive the full like 3 years ago is not the same as I like perceive the full now. I think tarot is my life. It's like nonstop. I read about it all the time. I go to see exhibition like all the time. Like we've been very lucky for the past few years. Like we get to see a lot more tarot cards that are part of museum collection in exhibition on display. If you're in New York in June, you might know about this, but the Morgan Library is going to do a big exhibition on tarot, and they're going to include some of the Renaissance cards from their collection, but also the original paintings by Rachel Pollack from her Shining Tribe tarot. So that's the thing. Like it's just it expanded so much over time that I can teach this class and then redo a version of it every year, and it will just always be different because I just get to learn so much more every time.
Are there any exercises that you offer for people that they can do? And because in general, in advaya, practice is such an important part of the way we teach. So it's not only about learning in a way that's logical and visual, but it's like a sensuous way of learning. And that's why like your work with iconography is so important, the way that you look at that. But now the exercises that you gave on like how can we connect, it's just like so beautiful to be able to bring these kind of concepts back to earth.
Like the part of what makes tarot interesting is also just the very idea that it's a game. And so like the whole point of studying card is not to sit in front of like a lecture. It's also like all that stuff is experiential. The more you play with the card, the more you learn. In general, I try to give like guideline for people to give them some permission to be able to work with a card. I've been teaching for many years now. The thing that people I get from people, whether they're newbies or just consummate enthusiasts, is that like it's just a matter of confidence. The confidence you get from just a practice, working with the card yourself, working with other people, like giving readings to your friends, having little tarot groups where you kind of like make a weekly date and then try to read each other's cards. I mean, like it's just about like it's about the community, it's about the practice. And it's about also learning to trust yourself, learning that we're all intuitive. It's just about giving yourself permission to know when we know. And that's also the stuff that you learn. This is why tarot is such a great practice. When you understand that, when you understand how to recognize your intuitive flex, that's something you can use every day, all the time. So you don't need the card. When you have the gut feeling and you just go.
I love that. And I think the way I've always seen tarot is also as a story. I mean, I'm a writer, so that's how I
Mm.
connect concepts. And I think I find it quite interesting that the narrative on tarot, like the way even I grew up, or my parents would talk about, like the woman that did the tarocchi was
Well,
kind of, she was the fortune teller. She was the one that would tell you about your future. And like, and there was this kind of consumerist way of approaching tarot, no? Where it was like, okay, you go and like you want to know if that person loves you, or you want to know if you should get that job, and the fortune tarot reader will tell you. And it's so interesting because it's completely the opposite of that, and it's more about like letting the cards speak to you. And I know that no reading will ever be the same as another one. Like there's always, it's always a different story you tell. And I see it also as a kind of a collective thing that you do. Like you, it's you, me, and the cards. And then if I do it with someone else, it's me, that person, and the cards. And then and I love that. I think that's actually such a beautiful part of it as well. It's this kind of collective creation of story almost.
Eliphas Lévy was a prominent French occultist who, in the mid-19th century, wrote a book. It's called "Ritual and Dogmas of High Magic" in France. Like he famously said in the book, it's like, oh, if you were to give a tarot deck to a person in jail, and with no, access to nothing else. In a few months, this person will be able to just know everything about everything because the tarot will be able to teach them everything about the universe that they need to know. And I was just like it's kind of true. It's kind of true. I don't think that Eliphas Levi was an important figure, and I don't agree with everything he says, but like it's true that tarot has this capacity to just tell every story possible with very few elements. It's like a sacred comic book, except that it's us inside. Reading for other people is also just so fascinating because you get to experience that so closely. Like from one reading to the next, some people will have the same card, and then because the stories are different, the cards will have a completely different meaning. And it's like the same card. The collective aspect is just really, really beautiful. I think that we can't underestimate. That's something that I really learned from Rachel Pollack, I think, and also from loving movies and novels. It's like you can't underestimate the power of a good story. And that story doesn't have to be true to be meaningful to you. Like I was just like, right now I'm just gossiping a little bit. Right now we're all kind of like in love with Frankenstein. Just like I receive like maybe 10 texts every day about like Guillermo del Toro's new Frankenstein because all my friends in are swooning because that monster is so cool and also so cute. I remember reading Frankenstein when I was a kid, when I was like 12 or 13, and I felt like a freak at that point. And I felt like I just felt so much empathy for the creature. I know that that book changed me at the time. It changed something, and of course with the adoption and the idea of being born without a mother, like this whole kind of like Frankenstein-y connection. And so like what like that there is this idea like a good book can change the way you think. And if you kind of like attach yourself to like a novel's character, it can redesign your inner blueprint. And tarot just function exactly like that.
Find out more on advaya.life.